I want to start this by bringing on the one, the only, our friend and colleague, Mr. Jimmy LaRose.
Hey, thank you, pal. Good morning.
Good morning.
Of course, that is NANO's chairman, Bishop Redfern II. Friends, we have decided to take a minute today and begin with a video conference around what it looks like to be a Nano governor. Don't forget that today's broadcast will be uploaded before the end of the day to nano.org. It'll also be at Nano YouTube. So even if you're missing it today or don't have a chance to stay for the whole thing, you'll be able to review. Let's get right to the question. It seems to be on everybody's mind. Why Nano? And interestingly enough, I find that the most concise and most recent answer that I've ever seen to this question, why Nano, the National Association of Nonprofit Organizations and Executives, actually comes from our new president, Louis Fawcett. Louis will be installed as president of Nano on February 1st. He's passionate, he's excited. He has a 10-year ministry history of serving churches and raising money. He then has a 10-year history of raising money internationally for children in Haiti, children in Ethiopia, building children's homes in China. And most recently, he completed a 4-year tenure at Adventure Children's Museum, the largest children's museum in the South. But as it relates to the question, why Nano, I think Louis has got it, so here we go. Here's what Louis had to say. For the following reasons, I have accepted the role as president of Nano. There is a long overdue time for a reformation of the nonprofit sector. In this new world, every charitable leader will be honored for his or her service. Small nonprofits will not be taken advantage of by large companies and firms offering expensive products and services they don't need. Nonprofits will be paid and leaders will be given the salary they deserve rather than being told, well, we're not profits, so we get underpaid. Together, we will discuss outdated ethical codes and failed best practices and replace them with a new guideline that fosters enterprise growth. Board meetings will become inspired small group discussions about scale rather than large gatherings of disinterested people who listen to staff reports. Standards for our industry will be generated from the ground up, from you, rather than being passed down to us from those in ivory towers. Together, we will define and achieve significant impact. I give you Louis Fawcett, Nano's new president. So, with that being said, if you have not yet made or accepted your position as a Nano governor, you'll want to go to nanogovernors.org, nanogovernors.org, and hit accept or make a nomination. And we certainly understand and celebrate individuals who nominate themselves. So don't miss the opportunity to go to nanogovernors.org and accept or make your own nomination or nominate someone else. Okay, so for today it is going to be about 5 easy and important tasks. Thank you, dear Christy. Nano's #1 governor is here. She's helping me along. Today's Nano's Governors Working Group overview is going to be about 5 easy and important tasks. Task number 1, save the date. Save the date, and what date is that? Save the date for our Board of Governors Convention and Expo in Charleston, South Carolina on March 26th and 27th. Now, for those of you who have met Lisa Van Zyl, Lisa is our Members Relations Director. She insisted that I let everybody know this is March 2019. Board of Governors Convention and Expo is biennial, a biennial event every 2 years. And Lisa Van Zyl, many of you have met our new membership director. She's been with us for about 6 months. She wanted me to remind everyone that that's March 2019 in Charleston, South Carolina. But what is going to happen in Charleston? Craziness, disruption, excitement. First of all, Diana Ruano with the United Nations Refugee Program. Can you imagine being the fundraiser for the United Nations Refugee Program? Talk about heroic mission of scale. Wow, that's big. Diana is going to be doing a session called Bursting the Nonprofit Bubble. Do we have the courage? Are we willing to look at other options other than pro bono and altruism and philanthropy, understanding that if we're going to be sustainable and we're going to go to scale, we really need to consider other options. bursting the nonprofit bubble. Jimmy LaRose, myself, I will be doing Overcoming the House of Org. What does that mean? Well, here's what it means. How to make sure that the American Red Cross, your United Way program, your AFP chapter, your community foundation, that they stop keeping you poor. I'm going to teach you how to go over, around, under, and through these organizations to get the millions of dollars that actually really belong to you. Then we've got Gail Giordano. Gail has just done a TED Talk on the existential whimsy of caring and how it is the fundamental, the lowest common denominator as it relates to driving capacity building, driving fundraising, driving philanthropy. So the existential whimsy, Tao of Caring, Gail Giordano will be speaking. Really excited about Kathy Parker. If you love the movie Hitch, if you love the movie Sweet Home Alabama, if you love the movie Anna and the King, Andy Tennant has just agreed to direct the new film Northern Lights. And it's the story of Kathy Parker, the accidental fundraiser, who saw on ESPN one afternoon that there was children above the Arctic Circle playing football on tundra, playing football on mud and rock without a field. And in a year's time, only about 8 months, she raised the millions of dollars that it took and built above the Arctic Circle, she built a football field for the young people of Barrow Whalers, Alaska. Barrow, Alaska. The Barrow Whalers is the football team. And just about 7 weeks ago, they won the state championship. So the new major motion picture, Northern Lights, with Kathy Parker, Andy Tennant directing, and of course, Hani Korngold producing, it's going to be wonderful. Then, our new president, Louis Fawcett. Louis is going to be speaking on disrupt or be disrupted. And Louis's economy, it's always day one. It's a day one economy, because if we're not in day one, we're in day two. And if we're in day two, we're spiraling. So, what does it look like for you to have the courage to restructure your organization? What does it look like for you to have the courage to reprioritize time and human resources? The idea is, if we don't raise capacity building to the same level that we do program and services, we are going to decline and fail and spiral. So Louis will be doing Disrupt or Be Disrupted. That is March 26 and 27 in Charleston, South Carolina for NANO's Convention and Expo. Task number 1 completed. Task number 2, review NANO's value statement. What does it look like for us to have shared values? Here, I'm going to grab it. Let's see. Right here. Thank you. I'm back. Okay. You're able to download this by going to nano.org. At nano.org on the homepage, there is a navigation button called Values. And I thought I'd just reference one or two. I think it's important because though it's important what we do, Simon Sinek says it's important for people to know why we do what we do. So, our members are our mission. National Association of Nonprofit Organizations and Executives, NANO, is a nationwide network of donors, volunteers, and charitable leaders whose relentless commitment to significant and sustainable impact transforms the communities that we serve. NANO members are innovators who solve problems, not just service them. And we deploy heroic missions of scale that confront social and environmental dilemmas so completely that money chases after them. Friends, if you want to run a food bank out of the back of your minivan, God bless you. We support that. But NANO is about significant impact and making sure that you have 200,000 minivans and that you're running food banks out of them and that you're actually completely confronting and eradicating a problem so completely that money chases after it. NANO's value statement, it goes on and on about the important things that we do and why we do them. Make sure you take a chance in a minute to review NANO's value statement. Task number 2, taken care of. Now, of course, our members are our mission. What's task number 3? Time to join NANO. If you're a NANO governor and you haven't joined yet, now's the time. We have 800 members in our first 15 months, and we'll be up to 3,000 we project by the end of the year. Task number 3 is to join Nano. Now, you will see right here, thank you, Christy, you'll be able to go to nano.org, go to membership, and download this resource to better understand all those opportunities. But let me review them for you right now. I've got the red cover here. First of all, Nano is the fastest growing membership network in the United States. Second of all, our cornerstone is research and development and the production of academic publications that actually defy convention. All the anecdotal stuff that you've been learning at your state association meetings, all of the outdated webinars that you've been receiving when you go to AFP trainings, all of the different resources that you've been relying on for 50 years that have absolutely proven to fail you, we are able to set them aside, and we have done the research and produced the academic publications that chart for you a blueprint, a new way of doing business that ends up making sure you build capacity. We also perform monthly and regional trainings. We have a biennial national conference. We have a cloud-based training platform. We have our 10,000-page Capacity Builders download library. There is mentoring, coaching, and consulting. We have just created Inside Charity, our industry media news outlet. We have our Nano members CEO platform. We highlight Nano members at 501c3.buzz to make sure we raise the level of visibility of your brand, your name on the internet in a way that's celebratory, that's charitable, that's lovely. Of course, we have our national donor database. Do you know that as a member of Nano, you have access to the names and address of every single net worth millionaire in the United States? We have a certified vendor program. We make sure and clear for you, Nano members, vendors that you can actually afford and that actually work, so you don't end up in situations like you do with Blackbaud, paying $25,000 a month for a product that doesn't work. We also, and most importantly, and if I may say most importantly, we have Nano credentialing, CNE, CDE, and CNC credentialing. Let me talk to you about that for a minute. Advanced credentialing, certified nonprofit executive. Nano credentialing is based on Nano's new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofits. And CNE is for the C-suite level executive. If you're a CEO, a CDO, a CFO, a COO, this is the only credentialing that's available in the United States to equip you with enterprise growth principles that work in a charitable setting. Certified nonprofit executive. Then there is certified development executive. If you understand that the certifications out there that relate to fundraising are ancient and that are overpriced and that are in decline, you'll understand the value of certified development executive, CDE. So if you're a fundraiser who wants to understand enterprise growth and understands that the cornerstone of nonprofit management is not ethics, it's not outdated ethical codes, but rather it's enterprise models that work. If you understand that enterprise growth is the cornerstone of nonprofit management, then certified development executive is for you. Then there is certified nonprofit consultant. What does it look like for you to be equipped and improve your consulting craft, but do it with solutions that work, instead of relying on those PowerPoints you created in 1991 that you're still selling for $5,000 a month? Certified nonprofit consultant equips you to be the consultant that our nonprofits really need. Okay, I mentioned a minute ago about that SEO platform. What does it look for you to be highlighted personally at 501c3.buzz? This way we be charitable, be crazy, be lovely. When you go to 501c3.buzz, it's only positive. This is where we get to highlight your good, important work. And it's important for you to get control of your brand and raise your level of visibility on the World Wide Web. Of course, there is now InsideCharity.org, America's trusted nonprofit news source. You know, it's hard to rely on the industry rags when they actually get paid not only to run a person's ad, but also that person or that that corporation gets to write their own article about a topic. It's hard to trust. Now, I'm not talking about fake news, friends. This is not fake news. This is fraud. I'm talking about the industry resources that you rely on right now are actually driven by the for-profit corporations that end up paying the industry rags, not only to run their ads, but they also get to write their own articles and post them. We rely on donors who are committed to capacity building to run InsideCharity.org. So this is a nonprofit news source that you can trust. Okay, I think I already reviewed credentialing, but remember, we're in the section right now about membership. Task number 3 is join Nano today. So as you join Nano, for a practitioner, for an individual, it's $100. If you're a nonprofit, it's $200, but that's unlimited numbers of individuals from your nonprofit who can access the Nano platform and be a Nano member. If you're a for-profit organization, you have an unlimited number of registrations to use the Nano platform and to highlight your good important work as a Nano enterprise partner. So you can join Nano today as a practitioner for $100, as an organization or a nonprofit for $200, or you can join as an enterprise partner, a for-profit organization for $300. Remember, for $200 and $300, that's unlimited members from your organization or from your for-profit. Okay, we've done 3 of the 5 tasks. Task number 1 was save the date. Task number 2 was to review our value statement. Why do we do this? Task number 3 was join Nano today. Task number 4, now we get down to the bones of it. Review new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofits. Review, as a Nano governor, new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofit. How does that work? Okay, let me show you. I'll take the big book right there. Thank you, Christy. You may recall that last year, before convention and expo, we had 12 new guidelines that were 110 pages. Well, 3,600 governors, 300 of which came to Columbia, South Carolina, did the hard work of reviewing those 12 guidelines, those 112 pages, 110 pages. And here's where we ended up. Dr. Robinson and our governors reduced the 12 new guidelines to 6 new guidelines. But instead of it being 110 pages, Nano's new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofit, 2nd edition, it's 6 guidelines, but it's 600 pages. And friends, right here, this is the cornerstone. This is the difference. This is the blueprint. If you have not been sustainable, if you find yourself taking and paying today for yesterday's bills, instead of having millions of dollars in reserve, instead of having a well-heeled endowment, instead of having the cash flow that you need to accomplish your mission, you need to comprehend and review this new 6 guidelines that we find and new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofit 2nd edition. 6 new guidelines, 600 pages. Let me go through each of the 6. Thank you, Christy. Okay, guideline number 1, give and take, harnessing the power of differentiated relationships. Friends, if you want to run a food bank out of the back of your minivan, God bless you. But if you actually want to eradicate a problem completely, you have to do so by harnessing the power of egalitarian, bridged, networked, and differentiated relationships. This is one of Nano's new 6 guidelines. It is one of the keys to your success if you're committed to significant impact. Number 2, building capacity. What does it look like if you're the nonprofit that's starting from scratch? You're having to start from 0. Maybe you got $100,000 coming in. Maybe you've got $200,000 coming in. And you're more committed to serving the homeless person or the rainforest than you are your actual customer. And the rainforest and the homeless person isn't your customer because they ain't got no money. Building capacity teaches you how to reprioritize and put in place the structures that allow you to get to the $1 million, $3 million, and $5 million mark. Building capacity is for the startup or the medium-sized nonprofit. Then we have boosting capacity. If you're already at the $2.5 million mark, if you're already at the $5 million mark, but you need to be at the $50 million mark, you want to experience boosting capacity. Someone made the point recently that in the last 50 years, 45,000 for-profit organizations, 45,000 for-profits exceeded the $50 million mark. In that same time period, only 145 organizations, nonprofits, exceeded 50 million. If you're at the 1 million, the 2.5 million, the $5 million mark, and it's time for you to get to the $50 million mark, you need boosting capacity. Then, one of my favorites, the strong CEO. There's really two sides to this particular document. If you understand that the strong CEO means that everything falls on your shoulders as the chief executive officer, then the ideas of character, competency, the qualities of leadership, both operational, organizational, and leading your people, all of these things take on new meaning if you understand that the other side of this, that there are management structures that are challenged that you never thought possible. Friends, if you just accept the fact right from the premise, if you just accept right from the start the premise that boards never worked and never would and never will, that it was a flawed business concept, when you understand that hiring a group of volunteers that may or may not be engaged, that may or may not get together once a month, that may not get together once a quarter, that are not paid, are actually going to take responsibility for launching and driving enterprise growth. When you understand that the idea of the board concept was flawed right from the beginning, there are then things that we can do to actually make boards that work. We're very fond of saying, stop making boards volunteers, stop having boards fundraising, stop having them doing strategic planning, but make sure that we turn our boards into very small core group of individuals that's able to provide advice and accountability. So, in the strong CEO, you are tasked with becoming the leader that your organization requires, but you are disencumbered from the structures that have been holding you back, the strong CEO. Okay, then we have system shock. New era management structures for charities that soar. Super teams. Super teams. What does it look like for you to restructure your organization in a way that, hey, Christy, I found it. I got it. What does it look like for you to restructure your organization internally? If the strong CEO is about you and your external board, can you imagine your board's actually external? If this is about you and your administration, what does it look like that's over you? What does it look like for you to become a super team internally that accomplishes significant impact, that reaches and achieves heroic mission of scale? Guideline number 6, evaluating impact before, during, and after strategic growth actions. What does it look like for you to be able to attract the funding, attract the donor that understands the value of underwriting, the cost associated with you being able to demonstrate measurable impact? It's not an onerous task. It's not something that we can't not afford. But there are ways to put in place a way to evaluate that allows the money not to just flow in, but water flow in. The waterfall of funds come chasing after you if you're able to demonstrate impact. So evaluating impact before, during, and after strategic growth actions. That's what we're looking for in guideline number 6. So, new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofits. Guideline number 1, give and take, harnessing the power of differentiated relationships. Guide number 9, number 2, system shock, new era management structures for charities that soar. Guideline number 3, the strong CEO. Guideline number 4, building capacity, which is different from guideline number 5, boosting capacity, which is different from guideline number 6, evaluating impact before, during, and after strategic growth actions. Don't forget that those 600 pages, those 6 guidelines are right now in your governor's cool kit in Nano Central. All 6 guidelines are now in Nano Central in the Governor's Toolkit, which are available for download right this minute. Okay, so new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofit. Task number 4 is for you to choose one, or choose all 5 or 6, excuse me, and evaluate them and decide and begin to internalize them for yourself. Now, once you have reviewed, and like I said, they are in Nano Central in your Governor's Toolkit. Now, task number 5. Once you have chosen to evaluate one guideline, or 3 guidelines, or 6 guidelines, or a portion of one guideline, you then go to the Governor's Forum and you collaborate and you contribute. Inside Nano's Governor's Forum, right next to Nano's Governor's Toolkit, you will find all 6 guidelines posted, and you'll be able to, after you review and read, you'll be able to contribute as a governor, as a peer reviewer, your understanding and answer these 6 questions as it relates to the guideline reviewed. Number 1, what do you think is the most important idea presented in this guideline? What idea in the guideline do you have concerns about, and why? What idea is not clear to you or you think needs amplification? What do you think needs to be added to the guideline in order to make it more helpful? Do you think any additional practices need to be added to this guideline? If so, what are they? And in what ways do you think that this guideline helps promote nonprofit growth? So you review one of a guideline, a portion of a guideline, or all 6 guidelines, and then you assist us by answering these 6 questions in the Governor's Forum inside Nano Central. I just noticed online that one of our governors did so. She took on Give and Take, Harnessing the Power of Differentiated Relationships. Here's what she said. It was Adele McKinney. She said, first of all, reading through this material felt like going to college. It was an amazing set of information, and I thought that it was hard to sit down and read in one sitting. But she ends up, when talking about give and take, harnessing the power of differentiated relationship, she said, I think sometimes we put people in positions that don't have the capacity or vision because they want different things on their board around equality or diversity that don't actually accomplish enterprise growth. Now, wow, that was a tough word, and I'm not sure I agree or disagree with Adele. She said, however, we need to make sure we lay aside codes and ethical situations that limit our vision. So that's an interesting word. That's a hard word, but we look forward to separate and critical thought. Friends, a sign of a healthy family is its ability to have a discussion and to have separate and critical thought around those issues. So let me challenge you to review the 6 guidelines in the Governor's Toolkit, but then make sure you go to the Governor's Forum and contribute and collaborate around the ones that you found to be interesting to you. Okay, none of this would be possible without Dr. Kathleen Robinson, who took the governor's original 12 guidelines and with the governor's help reduced them to 6 guidelines, took them from 110 pages up to 600 pages, and you now have a blueprint for significant impact. You have the solution that you need to look at a 10, 15, 25-year heroic mission of scale and confront a problem so completely, eradicate an issue so completely that money chases after it. We thank Dr. Robinson for making that possible. And she asked me to make sure that I shared with you a few things around new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofit. She said, Jimmy, new guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofits are for leaders who want to grow their organization. They are not intentionally written to give more pablum. Pablum, by the way, as I had to look it up, is bland or insipid intellectual fare. So I'll start over. They are not intentional, excuse me, let me start over. They are intentionally not written to give more pablum, bland or insipid intellectual fare. It will take time to digest these new guidelines. They are meant to go beyond the basics. They are meant to make you think. They are meant to expand your thought and challenge your thinking and practices. New guidelines for tomorrow's nonprofits are for leaders who are self-learners and understand the need to continuously learn, to improve and alter their practice. Read them in sections, 1 or 2 key practices at a time, meaning, inside each guideline, there are key practices, as many as 15, 20, and 30. She said, read them in sections, 1 or 2 key practices at a time, and think about what's said and what's been written. Think about it for a while. Each guideline is reinforced and becomes the basis for other guidelines. So once one guideline is read, you may want to go back and reread the other guidelines with new understandings. The footnotes are important. Take a time to explore the links given. They'll give ample resources, tools, and examples of what's been discussed so that your insight into the guidelines are enriched. You may want to start by reading the Glossary of Terms in the back of each guideline first. Some terms are defined differently by different people. To get what's said, use the definition given so that you and the writer, in this case Dr. Robinson, are on the same page. These guidelines are meant to evoke conversation among a group that works together so there is greater clarity of purpose, so that we might improve purpose, mission, strategy, and outcomes. They are not meant to highlight cultural shifts. They have and are occurring, that have occurred in the nonprofit sector. I'll read that one again. They are meant to highlight cultural shifts that have and are occurring in the nonprofit sector. They are not meant to be the last word or even a sacred word as a set of standards, rules, or codes that you must follow. They're guidelines, they're guides, they're pathways to growth, and they are revealed by those who have grown through them already. Ultimately, the measure of your success with new guidelines will be on the impact and outcomes that your organization produces. Hence, the guidelines are impact-oriented. They are not growth-oriented for growth's sake. They are growth-oriented for the sake of significant impact. Finally, guidelines also remind us that all organizations, like humans, grow and can decline. Nonprofits have a life cycle. Achieving and sustaining effectiveness is an ongoing leadership and management process. Therefore, some guidelines will be more relevant to your current circumstances than others. As circumstances change, don't forget to review the guidelines again for what others have done in similar situations. That, of course, is our own Dr. Robinson challenging us and giving us a framework to review the 6 guidelines, internalize them, and then comment on them. Friends, we're serious here at Nano. We're serious about challenging you to think separately and to have critical thought and to understand that if we're going to become everything that we can, we're going to have to lay aside the weights that so easily beset us. I am fond of saying that money chases after ideas, and there will always be generous people who will amply support your great dream if it's backed by a sound plan. Nano is about organizational health. Nano is about becoming the organization that customers want to invest in. Donors, foundations, corporations, governments, interested publics. What does it look like for you to become an organization that, once again, eradicates a problem or confronts an issue so completely because you've designed this heroic mission of scale that people ask themselves a moral question: what happens to me if I don't give to them? Wouldn't it be amazing to be that kind of organization? That's what you become when you join the National Association of Nonprofit Organizations and Executives. I'm Jimmy LaRose. Visit us at nano.org or call right now 800 800-257-6670, 800-257-6670, and become a member today. Thank you.